The Ambassador Hotel, Los Angeles, California, June 5th, 1968. Robert F. Kennedy announces his victory in the California presidential primary to a crowd of supporters. But hope will soon turn to tragedy. As Kennedy makes his way through the hotel kitchen on his way to a press conference, he's ambushed by an assassin.
A gunman appeared, later identified as Sirhan, wielding a .22 caliber pistol, and by all accounts began firing at Kennedy, and rather wildly in this case. You seem to have a mad gunman, a lone nut with unclear motivations, who had gotten into this situation. Kennedy was hit, fell to the floor. He had been shot 3 times.
Sirhan fired all 8 shots in the chamber of his revolver. There was screaming, there was panic, there was fear. There were bodies on the floor, and one of them was Senator Robert Kennedy. 24 hours later, Kennedy died from those wounds.
Sirhan, a 24-year-old Palestinian immigrant, was quickly apprehended for the assassination of Robert Kennedy. Yet, remarkably, after his arrest, the gunman claimed to have no memory of his murderous rampage.
Sirhan was glassy-eyed and essentially unresponsive after he was arrested. He was completely placid. He didn't seem to have any idea what had happened, had no idea why he was arrested. It was definitely strange.
The last thing he can remember, earlier that evening, Sirhan was having a cup of coffee with an attractive girl who was wearing a polka dot dress in another part of the Ambassador Hotel. After that, it's a blank until he woke up with people jumping on his head and trying to wrestle the gun from his hands. A succession of psychiatrists and psychologists, both for the defense and for the prosecution, examined Sirhan. They all accepted that his amnesia was absolutely genuine. And many of them said at the time of the shooting, Sirhan was acting under post-hypnotic suggestion. In other words, he had been hypnotized and was shooting as a result.
Sirhan was convicted of first-degree murder and is currently serving a life sentence. But is it really possible to hypnotize someone into becoming an unknowing assassin? Well, from 1953 to 1973, there was a shocking top-secret CIA program that seemed to have explored that very question. Its codename was MK Ultra.
The MK Ultra program is a very weird moment in American history. And the aim of MK Ultra was to find out how far you can manipulate the psychology of individuals and get them to do what you want them to do. How deep it went is very uncertain. But that there were people in the CIA who had this aim is a matter of historical record.
In the early 1950s, the CIA was deeply interested in combating what they perceived as mind control research by the Chinese and the Russians in particular, and they embarked on their own program to explore the mind. But in the course of this research, the US government made efforts to experiment with so-called brainwashing of individuals through a variety of means. One was hypnosis, and the other was the use of psychoactive drugs. LSD in particular was proven to be highly effective at putting people in a state of mind where they could be post-hypnotically or otherwise suggested to take violent action. Somebody who, without fully knowing what they're doing or even knowing at all what they're doing, can go out and kill.
In 1973, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered all MK Ultra documents to be destroyed. But just 4 years later, a Freedom of Information Act request led to the discovery of around 20,000 secret files that managed to survive the purge. And while the true extent of the CIA's mind control program will never be known, is it possible they actually created a brainwashed assassin?
Now, among the MK Ultra documents that survive, we have a report, an internal report, in which a woman under hypnotic control, who had previously expressed a morbid fear of firearms, took a gun, held to the head of another woman, and pulled the trigger. And then subsequently had no memory of what it was that she had done. Now, this was all just a test in clinical circumstances, but it was, by their accounts, done, which sounds, just for the sake of argument, eerily like what Sirhan claimed, that he had no memory of what had been done.